problem. Here's the perfect antithesis in order to get them in for their solution, for their thesis. But ultimately here, we've got Oceania at war with Eurasia. I guess Orwell was right on all of this, and that's what NATO and the international community is doing, and that's why Russia and China have abstained from voting and have no involvement in this, because it is largely an global economic warfare. Africa must be obtained and retained by the usual suspects, and China and Russia and others may not get their hands on it.
Yeah, but, I mean, I've been to Africa many, many times in recent years, and, there's a tremendous Chinese involvement in Africa now. Absolutely massive, yep. where they're taking over resources and they're effectively taking over countries. And again, the African continent going across to the Middle East with Israel and all the rest of it, Saudi Arabia, have tremendous potential on purpose, of course, to bring these what you might call superpowers, or the major players economically and militarily in the world, together in conflict. That's what they want. It's been long planned, and it's been written in their documents. So what we're seeing is what we've been talking about all these years was coming. What we need to do is throw a spanner in the works, and it's going to be a really big challenge. I've been saying at every opportunity now for like 2 months, people have got to get informed. Whether you're protesting in America about the government, you're protesting in Egypt about Mubarak, whether you're protesting in Saudi Arabia or Bahrain, you've got to get informed of how the game is played, what the techniques are, and what the goals are at the end of all this. Because if you don't have those criteria in front of you, those understandings, then you're going to get played like a violin, because your genuine rage at your oppression, suppression, and injustice and lack of freedom is actually going to be used to bring about an end that the people responsible ultimately for that injustice want to bring about.
Another point of absolute fear paralyzation is what's going on in Japan, what the truth might be, what information is getting out, is not getting out. It looks very much like the BP accident here in the Gulf, David, where ground zero is locked down, and real information is not coming. Speculation is very wild. Fear is rampant. We've got about 3 minutes in this segment and 10 more minutes in the next. Let's get started talking about your take on Japan.
Well, the thing about any situation, whether it's in the Gulf or whether it's in Japan, the authorities are not going to tell you the truth if the truth is not good for the authorities. So there's going to be a tremendous amount of truth about what's happening with these nuclear stations that we're not being told about. But, just very quickly, we can go on further after the break, yep. But, it's like deja vu for me at the moment, because 21 years ago, when I first started this journey, and I came across psychics at that time who were telling me I was going to go on this journey and all the things that I'm done and I'm doing, there were some common themes at that point which have spanned all these years. And one of them was that there is going to be a massive vibrational change which was going to wake people up from their coma, their slumber, their amnesia, and they're going to see the world and themselves in a different way. That isn't happening. It was going to bring to the surface all that had been hidden from us. That's happening more and more with every passing month. But the third element of this vibrational change was it was going to bring about tremendous geological upheavals. And what I'm seeing now absolutely syncs with that. That is not to say that some of them are not created by technology like HARP. I mean, if Haiti, the earthquake there, wasn't technologically created, when all those troops were waiting in America to come across and take the country over the moment it happened, then I'm a pig with wings and a holding pattern. But they're not all HARP, and I think that when you've got people, as did, who have studied solar cycles and the activity of the sun and the influence of the moon, who predicted these things in New Zealand and Japan, then there are other things we need to look at with regard to this as well.
We've got one more segment coming up with David Icke, davidicke.com for all things David Icke. He will be in California here in a couple of days, and I highly recommend you get out and catch his, David, 6-8 hour...
yeah, it's 8 to 9 hours, yeah.
It's funny, it's entertaining, and if you haven't seen David live, you're really missing out. It's worth all the effort you might take to go there. We'll be right back, folks, in a couple of minutes. Stay with us, Deadline Live. Well, thanks for joining us, folks. David Icke has been kind enough to join us today. He will be in California here this weekend, which is good to hear. You guys get out there and see him. I have a feeling that the protection umbrella of all things universe will be over that particular conference. David Icke has published, as of last year, this huge compendium of the history of the world and the actual answers it takes to free ourselves, to get off of our knees. Human race, get off your knees. The lion sleeps no more. David, I think it's the best book you've written since And the Truth Shall Set You Free. Not that all of your work isn't great. David was one of the first people out there to document and get people on the record after 9/11. And I've just been very grateful, David, to have your friendship and tutelage all these 10 years now or so we've been working together. And to think that you're the voice of reason is rather comforting to me. I'd like to talk a little bit more about Japan. One of the interesting things is that Westinghouse, it was involved in the manufacturing and upkeep of these nuclear plants in Japan, as well as General Electric. A lot of these military-industrial complex people, Halliburton, Bechtel, they've nearly got the market cornered in the nuclear reactor industry, which is now proving to be maybe a little too expensive to actually help us all. And this is finally being the question. But Westinghouse, George Westinghouse, was also the guy that stole all the Tesla technology, stole all of his patents.
Yeah, these corporations work in effect as one unit because of the pyramid structure, the Russian dolls, one doll inside another. These different corporations that appear to be different actually are at their core working as one unit with that which controls governments, that which controls the banking system, to push the world in this direction. So it wouldn't surprise me if there were things specifically put into some of these reactors that they've created to specifically create chaos and fear and tremendous problems when things like this happened. I mean, I was reading a story which we put on my website today about reactors in California who were not forced to have earthquake situations in place that would stop the same thing happening there. And it was like, no, you don't have to do it. What do you mean you don't have to do it? It's in an earthquake zone. It's a nuclear reactor. No. So, there's so much that goes on and has gone on behind the scenes while people have been watching the game or, Friends or the game show. That we're now beginning to take the consequences for. And, some people, not many over the years, have opened their eyes to this. Increasing numbers are now, but for goodness sake, look at how we got into this situation by looking the other way, by getting caught in all the diversions of life. You look over here while we do something over here and you don't see because you're watching the game or whatever. We got into this situation by not paying attention. All right, there's been a lot of manipulation to make us not pay attention, but the responsibility is still with us. We've not. We've also gone through this process of, well, if it doesn't affect me, it's not my problem. But when you do that, eventually it does become your problem. And that's what we're seeing now. So please, people, those that have not been paying attention, those that have been looking the other way, those that have been saying, oh, it's not my problem because it doesn't affect me immediately, look at what's happening as a result of that. We need to change. We need to start paying attention. We need to start getting involved, and we start to realize that everybody's injustice is our injustice, because if it's not, in the end it will be when they've picked off all these other groups in society, all these other nations, all these other income brackets, colors and creeds and religions. There'll be a knock on your door, and who's going to be there to speak for you? Well, there is no one left because they've picked all the others off while you were looking the other way saying it's not my problem. What we need to do very, very urgently is to put aside all these irrelevant divisions that are put there to divide and rule us: religion, income bracket, color, creed, culture, and all the rest of it, so that we come together in unity and realize that this is an attack on the freedom, the basic freedom of all of us, Muslim, Jew, Christian, atheist, whatever, and on the children and grandchildren that have to live in the world that we are leaving them. And if anyone thinks their religion is more important than that, or their bloody politics is more important than that, or their income bracket, color, creed, whatever is more important than that, then you are a disgrace. And you are in such a closed, concrete-minded state, it takes my breath away. Now, come on. We've been going along this road for long enough, and look where it got us. We have to change. We have to start putting down the fault lines of division and realize we're all in this together, because they're playing now in the Middle East Sunni Muslims off against Shiite Muslims, just as they've played Muslims off against Christians and Jews off against Christians and Muslims and all the rest of it, like they play Republicans off against Democrats when they're two masks on the same face. We have to change, because if we don't, what they want will unfold, and what they want is absolutely horrific. It's time to stop being children in adult bodies and start to stand up together and face this. And if we do, we can bring it to an end, because we have the numbers. There are 7 billion plus in this world, divided and ruled through all these fault lines I'm talking about, but there is a handful, comparatively, of people at the core who are orchestrating all of this. Now, we, the 7 billion, have not come together in unity, because the few have divided and ruled us and set us at war with each other. Economic competition, military competition, competition for dominance of religion and belief system. When we let that go, the unity of the mass of the people can swamp the pinprick number at the core of the core who are orchestrating this. Time is now. Fork in the road is in front of us, and we have no time left to decide which way to go.
And yet, David, even as you say this, I hear the cynical out there saying, okay, well, I'm not getting together with that person. They don't believe the same way I believe, and I'm just going to go head for the hills and look out for myself. There's nowhere to go, David. They've got the whole place wired. There is nowhere to go. They are literally seconds away from cashless society and microchip populations, as if, you know, people didn't believe us when we said that 10 years, 20 years ago. Look at it now. This is the time where we do have to set aside our differences. What do we say to these cynical people that are so worn out that they can't put their differences aside?
Well, if you can't put your differences aside, I tell you what we ought to do. Tell you what we'll do. When people are in the concentration camps, and when their children and grandchildren are having every detail of their lives, even their thoughts, dictated by this global tyranny that's unfolding, I tell you what we should do. We should all sit around, before they take us to bring an end to us altogether, we should all sit around and we should have a debate on who had the best religion, who had the best politics, who had the best belief system, who had the most money. That's what we can do. That'd be a great idea, wouldn't it?
And then we can have
that has to happen now.
Yeah.
It has to end now, because if it doesn't, a nightmare scenario is going to unfold. It has to happen now. And if people aren't prepared to do it, don't complain when the nightmare unfolds.
Well, I hope that everyone was listening. And I like to think that the people out there, the 30% of the people that allegedly voted in cousin Obama, are looking at this hypocrisy and realize he's not just doing the best he can to deal with Bush's trophies, that he's doing the best he can to continue that work as part of the overall family. David, where are you going to be here coming up in California? Where can people go see you?
I'm at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium in Los Angeles from 10 till 8 o'clock a week tomorrow, next Saturday in effect. And I'll be pulling the pieces together of a vast, vast picture.
Thanks for lending us your voice. David Icke, davidicke.com. Human race, it's time. Get off your knees. The lion sleeps no more. Thank you, David. We'll be back in the second hour.
Cheers, Jack.
After this.